Okay, so the recording is on. I'll start again. So ethics and politics in qualitative research. Get your ethical approvals done for your own topics before you go for data collection, whenever your data collection starts. Usually it should be around the time you submit your proposal defense. Let's say you submit your proposal defense, your part 1, which is your introduction, literature review and methodology chapter. You submit it today. Then CHDR usually takes, if I remember, they take 2 to 3 months to get a jury ready for you for your proposal defense. That's the time. You have this time in between. You've pretty much done your first 3 chapters. Your interviews are getting ready. Maybe you're getting ready to go in the field. That's the time in between. You get your ethical approval from the university, get it submitted to your supervisor and to the ethical approval committee. They will usually take 3 weeks to 1 month, if I remember correctly. And they will give you, if you have any changes, they'll give you some suggestions. If not, everything is okay. They'll issue you with a letter that you have got ethical approval. And after that, you can start your data collection. Of course, after you finish your proposal defense. So we'll talk about ethics. The good thing about qualitative research is that, and the good thing about social sciences research is that usually we don't have very major ethical issues in qualitative, in social sciences research. But if you are doing research, if you're coming from a medical background, or you're doing research on psychological issues or health issues about people, that may cause you to have major ethical issues, which you will need to take care of. So today we'll discuss about the objective of today's class would be to define research ethics, to understand the principle of ethics, to implement these ethical principles in conducting our own research, PhD research, and also the last one is the most important, which is to minimize harm to our participants. Again, I use the word participants or respondents interchangeably. Whenever you're doing your qualitative research, my suggestion is don't call, like I told you, even words, the type of words which you use when you're writing your thesis has a lot of meaning. So try and use, we call them, qualitative words. Call them participants or respondents rather than quantitative words like data. This is my data collection. It's not data, it's your observations. So again, or don't, for example, quantitative people would say, I want to find out the factors which influence people. So factors, again, is a very, very strong word which you use. We don't use factors. We don't find factors. We find influences, various influences which affect human behavior. So, again, using the right words, terminology is very, very important while doing qualitative research. So what is ethics of research? Again, all these, whatever things I write in detail, these are available in books, in journals, everywhere. I've just copied stuff from various journals, what I've put, or from various ethical governing bodies, and I've put it here. So ethics and ethical principles extend to all spheres of human activity. They apply to dealings with each other and environment. They should govern our interactions not only in conducting research, but also in commerce, employment, and politics. Ethics serves to identify good and desirable, acceptable conduct and provide reasons for those conclusions. So again, the links which I've given you, these are, I've also given you some of these websites and some of these papers in your Times module page. So you can download from there and you can read them. Again, if you want, you can read them. Anything, Xiaozhen, any question? Okay, go ahead. So according to this is the Australian National Health and Medical Research Council. Ethics talk about integrity. It talks about respect to people. It talks about beneficence, which means it benefits people. And it talks about justice. So I'll talk about these in detail. First things, the basic principle of ethic is no harm should befall your research subjects or your research participants. I don't like the word subjects. When it says subject, it's very positivist word. I would say participants. Participants means me and them together. Subject means I'm outside the box. You are the subject. You're away from me. So for medical, of course, they would say subjects because the doctors see themselves very objectively. But in social sciences, we see a participant. So your questioning and them answering to your questions should not put them in trouble. No harm physically, no harm mentally should come to them because they gave answers to your questions or they took part in your focus group, or you asked, maybe you interviewed them and the interview caused them mental or physical pain. It should not happen. Next thing, subject should take part freely. There should be no coercion which takes place. Of course, you may have to talk to people. You may have to invite them to talk to you. That's not coercion. That is you trying to get friendly with people, you approaching people to tell them that, hi, I'm a PhD student. I'm conducting this research, da, 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 da. Of course, they are free to answer to you and they are free to refuse you also. Don't force people to answer to you. I know I can give you an example here. Let's say, we also talk about gatekeepers. I'll talk about what's a gatekeeper later on. But sometimes you choose a gatekeeper, somebody who helps you to enter into the field, but that person is a boss of an organization. And then you go with the boss and then you meet the staff. And then the boss tells the staff, all of you have to talk to Mr. Mayukh. He's doing a research, he's doing a PhD. All of you have to sit with him for half an hour and talk to him. Their answers may cause them harm. They may not be freely saying yes to you. They're saying yes to you under duress. That means they wanted to not answer you. They wanted to not take part in your research. Maybe they wanted to go home after we're finishing work. But because the boss forced them, they're sitting and answering you. So they're not free. So again, make sure people are free to answer questions. Similar things happen when, now again, something very common. A teacher brings another lecturer to his classroom, or I'm a supervisor. I bring my student to my class, and I say, okay, students, I have this student. She's doing a PhD or something, and I want all of you to sit here and listen to this person answer this person's question. That's a problem because the subjects will not be talking freely. Even worse, imagine if the researcher is asking them questions and I, who is the teacher of the classroom, is sitting in the corner and watching them. Make sure you answer the question properly. They are not free. And also the last point is the participation should be based on informed consent. That means they should know in advance what they are doing and what they are expected to do. Let them know that you are a researcher. Don't lie to them. Don't hide your actual purpose of talking to them. They should know what's happening. They should, if you are recording them, I had this dilemma when I was doing my data collection. I, in fact, asked my supervisor, should I record while doing participant observation? Should I wear those spy cameras on my t-shirt or somewhere on my, the spy glasses or spy camera in my t-shirt while I record them? Because, there's a very, very good saying by Margaret Mead. What people say, what people do, and what people say that they do are completely different things. What people say, what people do, and what people say that they do are completely different things. So to observe the difference between what they are saying and what they are doing, I thought maybe it's best to have a spy camera and observe the video, and then I will analyze videos. And then again, my supervisor told me that's not informed consent. You have to let them know that you are a researcher. You have to let them know that they are being recorded. So then I decided, no, I should not be doing video recordings. I should do interviews, for example, or I should do participant observation. So when I did participant observation, they knew I was a researcher. They knew I was not a part of their group. I was a participant observer. That means I was spending time with them, behaving like them, eating with them, traveling with them, making mutually made decisions of what to eat, what to buy, where to sit together with them. But they knew my intentions. They knew who I was. Eventually, I became friends with them. With some of those people, I'm still in touch after 5, 7, 10 years. But they still knew that I am a researcher. I am not a Hare Krishna follower. That's my research. I think you read the introduction chapter for that paper which I wrote. So informed consent. Now let's talk about integrity. Integrity means commitment to the research for knowledge, to recognize principles of research conduct in the honest, ethical conduction of research and dissemination of communication of results. So your ethics is not just focused on your data collection. Your ethics is also in doing the right type of data collection, not just ethics towards the participant, but also the data collection method. Ethics, towards whether you're doing your data collection properly or are you fudging your data. And then later, communication of your results. When you analyze the data, when you communicate the results to your examiners, ethics also applies to that. So you have to maintain integrity. The next is respect to people regarding their welfare, regarding their rights, their beliefs, their perceptions, their customs, their cultural heritage, both individuals' cultural heritage and the collective cultural heritage of those people or people involved in that research. You may not believe in that, what you're researching on. In many, many cases, in quite a lot of cases, the researched and the researcher, there's a big distance between your social, cultural, religious beliefs, your heritage. There's a big difference. That is why you are researching on them, because you're inquisitive about them. You don't know about them. So you want to find out who they are. So there's a distance between you and them. But that does not mean you take judgment calls on their beliefs or their customs. For example, I go and research. I spend time in, I go to some jungles in Africa. Or let's say I go to Andaman and Nicobar Islands, which is in the Indian Ocean, very close to Thailand. And Andaman Nicobar Islands, they have these tribes which are they call them man-eater tribes. They kill human beings and they eat them. So if I spend time with them, if I'm allowed to spend time with them, if I'm accepted by them in their society, and they say, okay, you want to come, come. I should not make judgment calls on their behavior, on what they do, how they eat food, how they make local decisions, how men treat women, how women treat men, uh, how the dead people are treated in their society. Do they bury them? Do they burn them? Do they offer them to the gods? Or do they offer them to animals? In some cultures, they put dead bodies on top of a roof of a house and they leave it there for animals to eat it. Cultures are different. So we have to be very respectful when we enter somebody's field. We are going there to earn knowledge, not to judge who these people are. And that's a very big problem in the olden days. The Western ethnographers or the Western anthropologists, anthropology and sociology was always the Western gaze towards the East or the exotic East. And that was a problem, because when the Western gaze, when Europeans came to Asia, they always came with a perception of Asia, or the non-Western people to be savages or people who had lower social, moral, and fabric of society. And then when they viewed Asian culture with their own biases, like wearing a spectacle, they have their own biases which come from their own social behavior, their own society. So when they wear that, they analyze us based on their own behaviors. And when they wrote down the research, they were not being respectful to the Asian culture or African culture, for example. They tried to find more negatives than positives. If they found something positive, if they found something, they did not try to find the real reasons for people to do something. Again, I can give you examples of, let's say, people eating their dead, or people, let's say, not killing an animal, or people, like weddings. In Asia, it's giving dowry is a very common thing which has happened for thousands of years. So the Western gaze saw dowry as being something negative, instead of finding out why it happens, what's the real reason for it happening. And if they did, maybe they would have found out that even a thing like dowry, where money exchange happens when people get married, maybe that's not for the worse, maybe that's for the good. So again, you remember what I'm saying, respect the people who you interview or who you observe, and don't make judgment calls based on your understanding of the situation. Talk to those people. Anything which irks you, anything which scratches your brain, talk to the people. Try and understand what's happening. Remember, I told you, peel the onion. Don't just believe whatever you see, what the outside, that's a peel that has to be thrown away. Open and find the heart inside. So that's quite important. Beneficence means respect the dignity and well-being of the participants. And remember that takes precedence over your benefit for knowledge. Just because you want knowledge does not mean you will put those respondents' dignity and well-being, put it under fire. Make sure that is more important than you getting knowledge. You getting knowledge comes secondary. Let them not feel pain and suffering because you asked them the wrong questions. Don't for your own benefit, don't make them feel bad. Make sure there is justice within a population. There's a fair distribution of benefits and burdens of participation in your research. and for any research participant, a balance of burden and benefits. That means if your research is a burden to people, that means, let's say you're doing research on people who, if you want to sit down with them for an hour to do an interview with them, they are losing their salary. Let's say they are sitting at work, and then you go and say, can I sit with you for 1 hour so that you can give me some information? But he's going to lose 1 hour of salary. Make sure you don't do that only for the junior people, and the senior people, you don't do that. So, the burden of giving knowledge to you should not fall more on one group of people and less on another group of people. Or let's say you talk to only the females in the society, you don't focus on the male. So, you're not being fair. You're being very sexist, for example. You think, okay, I'll talk to the ladies, they are free, rather than the men because they are busy. No. So the balance, the burden which your interviews or your participant gives them should be equal to all members of that society, be it male, female, elder, younger, or anybody, or with social standing, lesser social, lesser financial standing, and somebody who's very rich. Make sure, and even the benefits which come out of your research should be equally distributed to everybody. If your research causes them to get something positive in their life, that positivity should go to all groups in your respondent list. Now, a question, I just want to ask a quick question. Anybody can answer me. This is usually the research process which we do, right? We select a topic, we do review literature, we do a conceptual framework or a theoretical framework. Conceptual framework are mostly quantitative. For qualitative research, we do theoretical frameworks. That means we see different theories and then we analyze which theory may be useful for us to understand our situation. We do literature of the review, we decide on the research questions, what information we need, how do we need to operationalize, we decide on the strategy, what kind of data collection we do, then we do the data collection, and then after that, we report our findings. So my question to you is, where exactly do you think, at which step should I start talking about ethics in my research? Anybody? Zhang Jimin, what do you think?
I think it should be from first step, and it should be through the all process.
Okay, so you feel it should be through the whole. Why do you think like that?
Because it's very important for respect to everybody and avoid the harm to them. So maybe every stages, especially in the data collection and your methodology to observe or interview them.
Somewhere over here. Okay. Anybody else? Maybe Teresa?
For my opinion, it starts from the topic, because then on that time we already know who become our participant, and then when we create our literature review and framework and question, we also thought about what our participant will do and how we interact with them.
Okay, so you have a similar view. All right. Anybody else have got a different view, a conflicting view to what we've talked about? Does anybody think it should not be in all levels?
Usually the ethics was put under the methodology part. Yeah, and then it will state out like what is the possible ethic that would be faced. Or I mean, like some researcher, they would like to put at the end of the part as well.
So again, Chinwui, right? Okay. I can't see your full names. Huh? I can just see a little bit on the corner. So if I don't see your full name, please don't get angry. You are correct in a way, Chinwui, that ethical approval or ethics come somewhere in the methodology chapter, or somewhere over here where you need to do your literature review and methodology. But that is where it comes in your thesis. But when it comes to employing ethical behavior, I agree with everybody else. Ethical behavior should start from here and go all the way till here. Your ethical approval may be here. After you decide your research strategy, before you start going into the field, your ethical approval, the filling up those forms, getting a letter from the university, that happens here. You're writing about ethics in my research. What are the ethics I should do in my research may happen over here when you're writing maybe your methodology chapter. So writing about ethics comes here. Getting ethical approval comes here. But employing ethics in your research should be from the top till the bottom. Employ ethics should be from selecting your topic. Think about all these things. Will my topic affect the people? If it's going to affect, what can I do to mitigate those risks to my participants? While collecting data, you should also talk about ethics. Am I doing it correctly? Am I forcing people? Is my work giving physical, moral, ethical, or financial trouble to anybody? And even while you are doing your analysis in the end, or even not just analysis, when you're doing your final viva, am I presenting everything to my examiners, or am I hiding something? You may decide to hide a few answers. Again, you have to think, should I hide because that's going to help these people? Or should I hide because it helps me with my thesis? Or should I hide because this is not something, this is outside the scope of my research? Maybe that's why you don't want to show it. So you have to employ ethical behavior throughout, from the start of your PhD till the end of your PhD. In fact, even after the end of your PhD, if you write any kind of research paper, or in between your PhD, if you're writing any kind of research paper, you should employ ethics and ethical behavior even then. So thank you for sharing, guys. Let's go ahead. So enforcement of research ethics happens in the universities, happens everywhere. And all these places have code of ethics, ethical behavior, which we need to do. Ethical committees must approve this, especially if you are doing research with human beings or animals. So even in Taylor's, we have an ethical committee, and there's a university ethical committee, and then there's ethical committees within every school. So when you submit your work to the university ethical committee, it gets distributed to different schools. And if you are from social sciences, it may come to my school. And then within my school, there are some of us who may be in the ethical committee. So your papers or your proposal will come to us. So we would read your work. We will give suggestion whether there's any ethical issues or not. If there's no ethical issues, the university gives you a letter that your paper looks okay. Then you go and you do your data collection. If you don't follow the ethical, you may be in trouble later. So it's minimizing harms. We discussed, ensure privacy of the people, ensure confidentiality, anonymity, and security of information received. Many places, you don't want people to know who people are, be anonymous. If you're writing, let's say you're using people's ideas or people's words in your analysis, quotes from people, make sure you don't write according to Mayukh, age, whatever, 45 or 40, India, he says da 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 da. According to Jack, America, 28 years old, da da da. No, hide. Don't tell who we are. You say, according to respondent one, you know, according to your research, according to your data collection, you should have your coding sheet, and you know respondent one is Mayukh, respondent two is Jack, respondent three is Alex. You know that. But when you write, you say respondent one or R1, R2, R3. So maintain our privacy. You may use our demographic data to explain who we are. According to respondent one, age 42, India. According to respondent three, age 75, Japan. You can do that. That's okay, because you want to connect maybe the country of origin to your analysis. You can do that. Or you want to connect the age to the analysis. But don't tell the name of the person and the analysis. That's, you're not ensuring their privacy. Or sometimes people also use fictitious names according to X, Y, Z, ABC, da, da, da. They can use fictitious names. Up to you, whatever you want to do. I personally just write respondent 1, 2, 3. Easy for me. Everybody can come up with their own way. If you cannot avoid hiding them, if their names and their behavior is very, very important for you to analyze, then you have to take permission from them. For example, you are doing a research on Malaysian car manufacturers. You're doing the leadership values or leadership behavior of Malaysian car manufacturers, decision-making process or something like that. Everybody knows Malaysian car manufacturers. Maybe you talk Proton and Perodua. So if you're talking, I talked in this research, we will talk to the top management or managing director of the top Malaysian car manufacturers. Everybody in the world knows it's either Proton or Perodua. So of course, in that case, you cannot hide your respondent. Then you have to take their permission. That, sir, I will be interviewing you and I will be writing your name. So according to the MD of Proton, according to the MD of Perodua, and then you write the answers. Make sure it's free choice. That means it is voluntary consent. They should not be coerced into participating. They should not be forced. Even if they are a captive group. Captive group means students in a classroom, or captive group could be workers in a factory, or patients in a hospital. They're a captive group. They are there. They cannot run away. Or if you're doing a interview of teenagers studying in a private hostel, or international school, well, it's a captive group. Or you're doing a research on people in the army or people in a jail, in prison, a captive group. But again, they should not be coerced. They should have an option to opt out of your research. Sometimes in observational research, free choice may not be possible. For example, you are doing observations of I'll give you an example. I know a researcher who wants to do medical research on teenage girls in schools and their monthly period cycles or something. I know somebody who's doing a research right now on how sports or how intense sports affect their monthly period cycle in government schools in Malaysia. Now, sometimes for them, it may not be a free choice. Again, they should not be a captive group because they should be able to opt out. But there are some situations, I can't think of many situations where free choice may not be possible. So usually you cannot coerce people to take part. People should be fully informed on the nature of your research. Everybody should know. Many, like for example, quantitative researchers, they print out a survey or a questionnaire, and on top they'll write, I'm a Taylor student and I'm doing this kind of topic. But for qualitative research, you give informed consent. Maybe you send them emails in advance, tell what you're going to do, or you physically go to them, talk to them, spend time with them, explain what you're going to do. And after they say yes, you can take in their consent. Okay, Mr. Low says a simulated client study do not require free choice. Mr. Low, can you explain it to all of us a little bit? Even I'm not too sure.
I think for example, if we do the client study, we send submitted clients to a pharmacist or to the shop to observe the response of the pharmacist. So we can't really ask the permission of the pharmacist, so that the one we have to ask the ethical approval from the committee, of course, to lay out the reason why we do this and the benefit over the thing.
Correct. If you know places like where you don't have a respondent to get permission from, for example, you collect the data. Let's say you go to the government website or the government body and you say, can you please give me the data for the last 20 years of cancer patients in Malaysia? Let's say you're doing some cancer research. You've got, you go to the government and you say, give me the data, what type of cancers are happening in Malaysia, what age group, I want all the data. Now, all those people, you cannot go to all those people personally and get their data. The data is submitted to the government body and you just collect from the government body and then you analyze that data. So in that way, you may not be able to get consent from the actual patient. You can get consent from the governing body that can I use your data? But yeah, maybe that's a good point. Okay, going ahead. Obtaining consent, again, this is from that website. Provision to the participants, level of comprehension, at the level of their comprehension, make sure they understand what's the purpose, what's the demands, what's the risks, what is the inconvenience they will have, what are the discomforts they will face, and what are the possible outcomes of the research that they will have. Please let them know in advance. So that's something very, very important. So they have, voluntary choice of to participate. I can think of something wherein maybe quite a long time ago, I took part in a friend of mine was doing a research on pain threshold of people and how that something to do with pain threshold of men and women and stuff like that. So what she was doing was she put our participant hands in ice cold water, like really ice cold water. And then she was measuring how many seconds we can keep our hands in ice cold water while we were doing something else. I forgot, this is maybe 20 years ago, we did this research. That person was doing, I was a participant. So she was doing for men and women, and then she found out, okay, women have a higher pain threshold. I told her it's very obvious, women are very strong. So that was the research, pain threshold and da. So again, they told us in advance about the risks faced, hypothermia risk, inconvenience caused. Once a week, I will have to come, or twice a week, I'll have to come to her place of, scientific study. The discomfort I'll face, my hand may be numb and things like that. So they told us everything in advance, and only when I accepted it, then I went for the study. Make sure the relationship, the power relationship is equal. And if the situation where unequal power relationship exists, between both the groups, try to make it as neutral as possible. For example, you are a researcher, but the other person is has chronic conditions or disabilities, or they are, patients and healthcare professionals. Patients have a disability, but the professionals have, you are interviewing both of them, but the patients are the ones who are struggling. So they have a lower power, relationship as compared to the doctor or the patient. If you're interviewing both of them, he has a higher power, he holds a higher power compared to the patient. Or if you're doing interviews between students and teachers, or between prisoners and prison guards, for example. So you have to try and understand that, and you have to try and mitigate those issues. So generally, researchers should be competent while doing ethics. That means you have to talk to your supervisors. You have to do a lot of reading. You have to get ethical approval from your university. Make sure you are competent even in interviews. I will talk about interviews maybe next week, or maybe later on this week, today, about, be competent in gathering your data. You should be informed by a literature review. You should know what's happening in the past, what happened based on your topic. You should know what's the various things happened in the past and how that affects, what are the ethical issues which happened in the past. Of course, you should know that plagiarism is unethical. So do not take data from, secondary data and then you convert it into your own primary data. Any kind of contribution you get from any kind of people should be acknowledged. Again, that data could be primary data that you collected, or it could be secondary data which you read in other papers, in other research papers. So it should be acknowledged. And of course, you know that falsification of results is unethical. This is very common, and I mean, in many, I won't say quantitative work, but it happens everywhere. A lot of falsification of results will happen. When you do qualitative research, we don't do numbers, we don't fudge numbers, but we can also fudge if the way we explain things, we can, twist our stories. Politicians are very famous for doing that. Two politicians from two different parties can take the same data and present it in different scenarios. So falsification of qualitative data can also happen because of the way you explain it, the way you write it down, the way you present it, or the way maybe you hide some things and you show only something else. So please don't do that. Ethics in survey research, whenever we are doing qualitative surveys, we have ethical issues towards interviewee, towards our side, who is the interviewer, and we also have the ethical issues in the sample or the data which we collected. So the ethical issue can happen everywhere, towards the people, towards us, or towards the data which was collected. For interviewee, you could have issues like privacy, ethical issues for privacy, anonymity, their time, their understanding of your research, what are you exactly trying to do, and then knowledge of the subject matter. Sometimes they don't even know what kind of research you are doing, and you start extracting data from them. So ethical issues can arise there. And your examiners will pick up on these things when you're doing your final, when you're talking in your final viva. They may ask you. So you should make sure there is no privacy, anonymity, time, comprehension, or knowledge issues towards the interviewee. When it comes to your side, your background should not influence your analysis. If I'm a Taylor's lecturer and I interview Taylor students for my research, that should not, my standing in tailors as a lecturer should not influence the students in tailors when I interview them. And if it does, or maybe I believe it definitely will affect, because when they know I'm a teacher, they will talk to me differently. What am I doing to mitigate this problem? You should have a way of finding a solution to this problem. If you are a lecturer and they are your students, how do you get rid of this gap so that they don't give you answers based on what you want to hear? This is a very common thing which happens in qualitative research. The interviewee tries to impress the interviewer because of social standing power of what you hold. So you have to break that barrier so you get real data. So don't let your background influence or ethically fudge your data. Your integrity, your knowledge and preparation. So have knowledge of the field before you enter. Do proper literature review of the type of people you want to interview. Be prepared for your interview. Prepared for your interview or data collection also means you should know how to collect data. You should know what kind of question, what is a qualitative questionnaire? How do I develop a qualitative interview question list? How should I ask qualitative questions? Qualitative means open-ended questions, not close-ended questions. Qualitative questionnaire also means open-ended. The opposite of open-ended is not close-ended. I would say the opposite of open-ended would be loaded questions or leading questions. Don't ask leading questions. You ask a type of question for which sometimes you ask a question in such a way that they will answer you the type of answer which you want, because you asked a loaded question or leading question. So read a little bit about it. Again, I'll put this in the group chat. I like these words. Loaded questions and leading questions. So please don't ask loaded and leading questions. You should only ask open-ended questions. Okay, we'll talk about interview skills later on. And also biases which occur in interviewers' opinions influences your answer. So don't let your biases influence your analysis or your data collection. Whatever biases you may have based on your sex, based on your religion, based on your social standing, don't let your bias affect the people. Don't let your bias affect the data which you're getting, and don't let the bias affect the analysis of this data when you write down. And if the bias affects, again, this bias could affect all these things, but you should understand those biases and make it explicit in your analysis. That's called reflexivity. Topic 6, we'll talk about reflexivity also. So don't let your biases affect the data. And if your biases do affect data, you should explore the biases and explain those biases in your analysis. That this is what I understand, but my understanding is based on who I am as a person. And then you explain who you are. That, oh, I'm an Indian researching on Indians. So there is an obvious bias. I may try to show lots of positive, maybe not show negatives. Or I'm a meat eater researching on vegetarians. I have a bias. I may think whatever they are telling me is crap, it's bullshit. So there could be a bias because I am a meat eater. I've eaten meat for the past more than 4 decades. So whatever, for me, meat is something which is very normal. But for them, just thinking about having meat on a plate makes those religious people very uncomfortable, physically sick, not just mentally uncomfortable, physically sick. So there is a bias, there is some kind of bias. So I have to explore the bias also. Think about ethics during your sampling. Who should you ask in order to get the information? Who's the right kind of people to ask? That depends on your research questions. You can do probability sampling or non-probability sampling. You can read about this in from your books as well.
Dr. Mayukh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've got a question. I can't open my video. Not very presentable today.
No issues.
Okay. Earlier you mentioned about interviewee issues, right? How can you suggest ways to overcome interviewees who lie? Because maybe they have maybe have some
very good question.
they have a good name to go and protect. Maybe. How do you overcome these issues?
Okay, Susanna, my question to you is, how do you know that they are lying?
Okay, this is very, I would say this is my opinion. Maybe it's based on my biasness also, right?
It's your opinion, it's your biases, it's your understanding of the literature, it's your understanding of the topic. Maybe you know a lot about the topic, and when you interview your interviewee, you know that whatever he's saying is bullshit. I know he's saying is bullshit. So
sorry, not exactly the interviewee, but who the interviewee represents, because I am planning to interview some government bodies, a government body, and I'm not
that's
sure about,
very, very common. It will definitely happen.
Yeah,
but that's fantastic about qualitative research, and you know this, or you should know this. What people say, what people do, and what people say that they do is completely different.
Correct. Yes.
So what you have to do is don't ask simple, structured questions. Quantitative people ask structured questions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Qualitative people, we always ask open-ended, semi-structured questions. When I say semi-structure means I have a basic structure. Let's say I have 4 research questions. My PhD has 4 research questions. Under these 4 research questions, I made an interview questionnaire. Under the research question 1, I've got 3 questions, 3 questions, 3 and 3. So I've got 12 questions to ask from my respondents under 4 research objectives. So 4 become 12. Now these 12 are semi-structured. That means for some of your respondents, you ask the 12 questions, you get enough answers. But for some other people, you ask these 12, let's say you're on question number 5. Question number 6 is a different topic. But when you're asking question 5, you know that he's either lying or he's, there's a difference between lying and not telling the truth. He's either lying or he's not telling the truth, or he's not sharing enough data because he doesn't remember, or it's not that he does not want to share. Maybe he's not thought about it right now. So in these cases, semi-structured interview questions really help you. That means for this particular person, my 12 questions can become 25 questions also. You can ask further questions. It's like you are a journalist. You're a news journalist. So you don't just stop on 3 or 4 questions. You keep asking more and more and more. Sometimes you ask the same questions, but you flip it. And you challenge the person sometimes by, again, not ethically making them feel uncomfortable, but ask a question. For example, let's say somebody is talking to you, let's say a governing body, he's talking about the health issues in Malaysia. He's a health minister.
Okay.
And he's not telling you enough truth, or he's not giving you enough data. So you keep asking him probing questions one after another. What about this? But what about that? What happened last year? last year some report came out, but da 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 da. Then he'll say, yeah, something. Could you tell me more about that? Could you expand more on this? Could you give me an example of how you say this is like this? You know, you keep probing. But if even after so many multiple questions, you did not get the answer, it's okay. You can write in your analysis that it felt as a interview, I felt I was not getting enough responses even after multiple questioning, and there may be more hidden agendas, or there may be more hidden data which could be explored in the future. So even this is your analysis. Even a lie is your analysis. Even if you don't get full data, that is your analysis. There is no issues here.
Okay, these additional questions, right? That okay, you have a set of questions, and these additional questions, must it be the same for basically everyone, or can I just as and when?
No. Maybe I'll give you, again, we're talking interview later on, but maybe I will try and show you something. Again, I try to give personal examples rather than book examples. So I'll give you some personal example from my own PhD. Okay. So this was my semi-structured question, for example. I'm just showing you something which I did a few years ago. Oops, sorry. Okay, so I asked semi-structured interview questions. I had 4 basic, this is my research question. Research question 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now my 4 research questions, I broke them down into every research questions. I had 4 interview questions underneath it. These 4 interview questions answer my, for example, understanding of these people's knowledge across the world. So I was focusing, this research question focused on experience and knowledge. This research question focused on behavior and experience. This research question focused on opinions and values. And this one focused on sensory experiences. So based on this, I had 4, 4, 2, 4. So I had 14 questions, for example. Now these 14 are semi-structured. That means this is the minimum questions which I want to ask to get my answers. But for some people, I may, because either I can feel that they have too much knowledge inside them and they are able to give me more answers. So for that group of people, maybe for getting to understand their experience and knowledge, I will ask them 6 or 7 questions, only for a few respondents, not for everybody.
All right. Okay.
But for some other respondent, I think these 4 questions will give me enough data. Remember, you will find some people who love to talk a lot. So I do some questions. I ask all these 14 questions. I get half an hour interview. I do another interview. These 4 research objectives. I have a 1.5 hour interview. So with 2 respondents, one respondent, within half an hour, he gave me enough knowledge already. I got what I wanted within half an hour. But for some other people, I had to keep asking them probing questions. Because like you said, either I felt they were not telling me everything. Maybe they were hiding stuff. Maybe they needed to be probed. Sometimes people need to be pushed a little bit to take out their data. Sometimes people don't like to answer everything in detail. They answer a little bit, they keep quiet. Because that's how they are as a human being. So you have to keep probing them to get the data out slowly. So you may have to ask more and more until you think that enough. If I ask any more, either he'll get mad or I'll start getting irritated.
Yeah.
And also remember, Susanna, you can always revisit the same person in the future. Because you're doing a PhD, sometimes you do an interview, you go home at night, maybe, I would do this. I would interview people in the morning. I would go back at home, or if I'm in a different city, I'd go in the hotel room. And I'm, in qualitative, we also do, we don't do a very structured analysis. We do cyclic. That means I'll do my analysis at the same day, or I'll do my data. I'm transcribing the interview at night from 10 o'clock till 4 o'clock in the morning. And when I'm analyzing, I suddenly realize, hey, I should have asked another question. No issues. Tomorrow I go to the field again. If I find that person again, and I engage with the person again. For your case, maybe different. I'm giving you my example. I could say, hey, hi, how are you? Hey, listen, I just wanted to talk. Yesterday we were talking about this. I was thinking about it, but what do you think? You engage with them again. Or could you explain what you meant when you said this? You engage with them again. It could be the next day. It could be the next week. It could be a follow-up could be on the telephone. A follow-up could be by email. A follow-up could be anytime. Maybe you meet them after 1 month and you suddenly, hello, how are you? We met that day. I just wanted to reconfirm you said something. That is good. That is needed. But don't make a judgment call. Don't say that what they said was true or false. If you think somebody is lying to you or bullshitting you, you keep probing until you get the right answer. And if you get multiple answers to the same kind of question, then you tell him that, hey, 20 minutes ago you said this, but right now you're telling me this. Which one do you think is more applicable to you? Don't tell them you're lying. You just say, 20 minutes ago you said you like a yellow colored t-shirt, but right now you're saying you don't like bright colors, you enjoy darker colors. So what do you mean by I like yellow shirt and I like darker colors? What do you mean? So, you're changing the questions and you're trying to probe more and more to get the answer.
But not trapping them, right?
No.
Okay.
You cannot do that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, then you are trying to show that you have the power to,
Manipulate.
influence what they are saying.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. So I was here, difference between interviewer assisted and self-completing service. You know this already. Most of the time, quantitative people do self-completion questionnaires, and even some qualitative researchers would do self-completion questionnaire. That means you tell people that I'll send you an email with questions, you type out and you send me the answer. So, and the other one is face-to-face. There's a big, both have positive and negative. For example, face-to-face interviews are open. You are in front of me, I'm asking you questions. I can see your eyes, I can see when you're lying, I can see that you are getting uncomfortable, or you're fidgeting your hands, you're feeling uncomfortable, you're checking your mobile phone. I can feel you're uncomfortable. You can be confronting, you can ask more probing questions. You can do clarifications, that's good. Anything you don't understand, you can give a top-up question, extra question. You can help them if they don't understand your question, you can help them, you can explain to them your question again. Interviews face-to-face are definitely slower. If they answer in type out, they'll type out in 20 minutes, they'll send you. When you do an interview, maybe you're talking 1 hour or 2 hours. Accuracy can be affected by your biases. Accuracy can be affected by social acceptability. That the type of questions you are asking is not socially acceptable, or the type of answers they are giving you is not acceptable by you. So these the accuracy of the answer can also be affected when you're doing open interviews face-to-face. However, on the other hand, Self-completion are private. They can do it in their own free time. It's more confidential, of course. Your questions have to be very clear, because if they don't understand your questions, you cannot assist them. They don't understand your question, you will get a wrong answer. It's faster for the respondent, definitely, because when people type and give you answers, it's most of the time it's much more smaller than when they speak. When people speak, they usually talk more. The accuracy can be affected by misunderstanding, because the questions were not very clear. So I misunderstood your question. And the accuracy can also be affected by length of questionnaire. If your question is too big and I'm doing it all alone, I'm too tired, I don't have time for you, I'll quickly write something and send to you. But it still can be done. You still can do qualitative self-completion questions, because you need the data. Now I'll give you example. Like for example, my PhD, I was interviewing quite a lot of people. And then I found a gentleman who I wanted to interview, but he told me that he broke his leg. So again, when you're talking about, Susanna was talking about people lying. So I knew he was lying, because that gentleman was a very, very old friend of mine, maybe from 20 years ago. Not a friend, an acquaintance of mine. So we have mutual friends. So I knew maybe long ago he had broken his leg, but right now he's fine. But maybe he does not want to be interviewed because of other reasons. Maybe he doesn't want, maybe he's too shy to meet me after so many years. You never know. Maybe his financial standing is not so good. Maybe he's not earning enough money. Maybe he doesn't look very smart right now. He's bald or whatever. There could be many reasons. Or maybe he just doesn't like me. Maybe when we were together long ago, he never liked me as a colleague, or as a, we were students, for example. So he never liked me as a classmate. So it could be any reasons. So for that person, but I really needed his answer. For that person, I sent him an email. So whatever questions I had for this person, I made my questions even more accurate and much more explicit, because I know he will never call me to ask me, Mayukh, what do you mean by question number 5? He will just answer in short answers, 2-line, 3-line answers. So I made my questionnaire even more explicit so that I can get as much data as possible. So it can be done. Okay, I've got 3 different not news articles, 3 articles which I want you to read in your free time. You can read this on Thursday in your free time. Let me just stop here for a bit. And these 3 articles are given in your, I have posted it in your times. Yeah. Your main reading materials. So this one is Nuremberg Code, Declaration of Helsinki, and Bloomers Chapter 4. So you can download these and you can read it a little bit. This is all about ethics and how to make sure your work is ethically sound. So you can read about this in your free time. Hopefully on Thursday you can read. And after you read, you do a small homework. And the homework is, okay, this everybody's done, fine. You go back to this topic, which is your, what is your research question? Again, many people answered. Thank you so much for everybody who answered about your research topic. Remember, I asked you your name, your research topic, and your method, not your methodology. So for example, this is a methodology, not a method. Method is like interviews, questionnaires, interview, questionnaire, same thing. Observation or case studies or interviews. These are methods. So when you say mixed method, that's a methodology. Mixed method is a methodology. Which method are you going to use? Don't tell me about your quantitative method. Tell me about your qualitative method which you're going to use. So people, you can correct your answers also what method you're using. Your research topic is here, method is here. Now, I want you, after you read these 3 topics, Nuremberg Code, Declaration of Helsinki, and chapter 4 from Bloomer, read these and think about, again, you can talk to your supervisors if you want, whenever you're free, and think about the ethical issues which you will face. People are already doing good. Find out the ethical issues which you will face or you think you will face based on your topic. Write down in your comments section here. So you can do this.
Sorry, Dr. Mayukh, can you repeat that again? I didn't get it clearly, the homework part.
Mr. Vignesh, what you need to do is, let's say
you read the 3 articles, right, first?
Yes, you read these 3 articles. These 3 articles are just about what we read right now. It's all about ethics in research. So after you read a little bit about ethics of research, you've got an idea what are the ethics of research, what we should do. Then you revisit your topic. Let's say your topic is a case study of effects of digital storytelling of whatever this is in a selected college of higher vocation in China.
Okay,
so you think
revisit our own research topic, right? That's what you mean.
Yes, your own, not the other person's one.
Oh, okay.
Don't focus on other person. Look at your own topic. If you've written it here, if you've not written it here, you can, of course, you can just use plus and you can write it. And then you explain ethical issues. You can just talk about your ethical issues. What are the ethical issues you may face? And you can also talk about the solutions for these issues. Solutions for these issues. Did you understand me, sir?
So this one is the ethical issues that we may explain is our own one, right? Not based on the 3 articles. Is it?
Oh, no.
Not the comment on the 3 articles. It's just that what
No. You're not commenting on 3 articles. Your focus here, please remember, I am doing this ethical workshop. I'm doing this qualitative research methods for you not to pass my module. I'm doing this for you to understand your methodology very well, so that helps you with your thesis and you pass your PhD. So my focus for you here is only your research topic. You don't care about other people's research topic, but think about your research topic, your ethical issues, and how you can mitigate those issues, how you can find solutions to those issues. So these, some of them will help you, they'll open up your mind, and then you, based on these ideas, think about your topic, what problems you can face, and what solutions you can face, or what solutions you can bring up. Did you understand me, sir?
Yeah, got it.
So these are given here. You can download whenever you want. Again, if you forget your article and everything, all this is given also here. These links are here. Who's a qualitative is given here. Analysis, interest given here. What is your research topic is given here. You can always click here and then keep writing your answers.
Sorry again, Dr. Mayukh. Can you please, I didn't get it when you mentioned the differences between method and methodology in the Padlet.
Yeah.
So like interviews are a methodology, is it?
Yes. So I again, everybody has to do your own reading. When I always tell my PhD students, I will not give you all the answers. I will not tell you, PhD is all about self-study. So I will give you ideas, I'll give you suggestions, and then you have to do your own deep reading. At least read 1 paper a day or 1 paper in 2 days, at least qualitatively. So when we are talking about your methodology chapter, please remember the first thing, the overarching thing on top is called your paradigm. So most of you should be, if you're coming to my class, you should be in the interpretivist paradigm. So read about your paradigm first. Constructivist, interpretivist paradigm. See where you fall in constructivist, interpretivist paradigm. Under that is your methodology. Methodology is qualitative research. That's your methodology. And under method, so paradigm, then methodology. Under the methodology, you've got some methods. The method is what you do to achieve your methodology. So your methods are things like participant observation, not participant observation, open-ended or structured interviews, or focus groups, or videos, or audio recordings, video recordings, photography, you take photographs and you analyze them. These are all methods of qualitative methodology, which is a part of interpretivist paradigm. Did you get it?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right. Anybody, any more questions, guys? I just realized that I made 91 slides and I'm on slide number 20 right now. Guys, can we take a 5-minute break? I just want to have a glass of water and then we can begin again.
Sorry, can we just make about 10 minutes because it's too long? You don't mind?
No issues. I am always happy. 10 minutes. Okay. So the time in my watch is 3:45.
We come back about 5 to 4.
All right. So by 3:55, we will come back and we will start the slides again.
Okay, thank you.
I'll just stop the recording for a bit. All right. Let's go back to the topic. Okay, it's going to be around 4 o'clock. We have 1 hour. Again, as usual, if anybody has any questions, please do feel free to ask me. Yeah? Okay, before we begin that, let's go back to, I asked everybody to read the introduction part and the abstract part of the article which I gave you, Understanding Ethnography. So I asked you about what is the paradigm used in the article, what is the ontological stance of the article, epistemological stance, methodological approach, and methods used. So again, remember, methods and methodology is different. So thank you to all the people who answered. I see many people have given answers to my question. Some of you wrote about your own topic. That's okay, but my question was regarding the article which I gave you. So that article, we'll revisit that article again. In the future, we'll do another exercise on the same article. So my answers, if you need to see my answers, I've just written it here already. So what's the paradigm guarding that article? My paradigm used for writing that article was interpretivist paradigm. Sorry, I'm getting more people coming in. Oh, so many Susannas coming in. I thought we had 1 Susanna, now suddenly I got 3. Not an issue. So what is the ontological stance? Ontology means how I see the world. So I believe in multiple realities. So that's the way I did my research. What's the epistemological stance? Epistemology means how we view the world. So we view knowledge as being transactional. That means whatever knowledge is created in my research is mutually agreed upon between me and my respondents. So the knowledge is not the, objective knowledge, as it's not scientific knowledge or objective knowledge, it is subjective knowledge. So the knowledge is mutually made by me and the respondent. It's not just the respondent. It is what the respondent said, what I understood, and then what I wrote down based on my understanding. So it is mutually agreed meanings. So it's what is the methodological approach is ethnography. The methodological approach I used was ethnography. Ethnography, I'll discuss more about ethnography in detail later. That's what I mostly use for my research. Ethnography basically means spending a lot of time in the field and using multiple methods of data collection. So my methods which I used were semi-structured interviews. I did participant observation. I also did non-participant observation. I also did field notes. In fact, I also did some photos. But I didn't write it here because I use photos just like a top up to my information rather than analyzing every photo. I did analyze a few photos, but not too much in detail. Most of my data came from semi-structured interviews, and a lot of data came from participant observation and non-participant observation as well, and field notes. Yeah. So this is what I did. Thank you so much for all the people who answered all these questions. Yeah, a lot of answers I got. Switch that off. Let me go back to my topic. Somebody asked, is it possible I don't conduct any interviews? Again, Viknesh, you decide on your research topic. You decide on what is the best data collection method. Interview is just one style of data collection. It's the most common style of qualitative data collection, but it's not the only style of data collection. So you need to, the best thing is maybe read a few books by Denzin and Lincoln or Crespel and see what are the various styles of qualitative data collection. And then based on your research question, based on the type of respondents you're looking for, then you see what is the best data collection tool which you can use. Sometimes students do it the other way around. They say, what is the easiest thing which I know? And then they try to follow the easiest thing which they can do or they know. Instead of doing that, the best thing is see your problem, see your respondent, and then discuss with your supervisor and do a lot of reading and decide what is the best method for collecting data. My research problem, my research question, my research gap, and my respondent. What's the best? Is it interviews? Maybe it's not interviews. Maybe it's a focus group. You don't need to do 20 interviews. Maybe you do 2 focus groups. Get 5 or 10 people in a room and you give them a few questions, let them discuss with each other. So so Lopeng, you're saying the same thing. It depends on your type of research. Sometimes some people do qualitative research only clicking photographs and analyzing photographs. Some people who are very good in analyzing visual data, they go to a field, they click lots of photos, and then they analyze the meaning of each photo. Again, I'll try and do that. I'll show you an example of that in the future. So it depends. It all depends on you. Okay, somebody told me Susanna Zoom has a problem. She'll come back soon. No problem. All right. So Mr. Pengyu, whatever he said is correct. People can use essays, yeah, any type of data collection you can use. Again, it depends on is that useful for you to get enough data. Some people use audio only. Some people, so they analyze only the speech of people. Sometimes quality, again, I wanted to say, sometimes people do, and people always ask me, sir, how many qualitative interviews should I conduct? So I know the person is coming from a positivist paradigm, and that is a very common Asian paradigm and a very old school paradigm, positivist. How many? Oh, they are doing 300, 400 surveys. How many interviews should I do? We never talk about that. A good qualitative research could be done on one interview. Again, depends on what is your research question and who is your respondent. Maybe you are doing an interview about, let's say, Microsoft, who developed Microsoft. So Microsoft was developed by Bill Gates. So your interview, let's say you're interviewing Bill Gates on his thinking and his plan and execution of how Microsoft was the Microsoft world, how he thought about it, the Windows, how he thought about Windows, how he came about creating it, and how he executed it, and how he made it into the most famous, most highly used operating system in the world. So you cannot interview 10 Bill Gates. There's only one Bill Gates. So your interview could be with one person. Of course, the interview could be done over a period of few months, and every interview could be 2 hours. So you just interview one person for 20 hours. So that's a fantastic qualitative research. There's another qualitative research which is called autoethnography. I did an autoethnographic paper as well a few years ago. Autoethnography is looking at yourself, looking within. So your respondent is you. You analyze yourself. So that is another style of data collection. 0 interviews, 0 photo clicking, 0 videos and interview recording. You analyze yourself. You means I'm the field, I'm the respondent. I'm analyzing myself, my own behavior, my own attitudes and needs, wants, and demands. So that can be done as well. That's autoethnography. Very, very modern, post-positivist, since 1995, since 2000, becoming very famous. Autoethnographic qualitative research. So you can search about that as well. Okay, so summarizing ethics, the rights of the respondents are always the most important. Respondents' cooperation in research is entirely voluntary at all the stages. A respondent should not be subject to negative effects of taking part in your survey, and the respondent's anonymity must be strictly protected. So you have to take care of it. So these are the most basic parts of doing the ethics regarding your participants. Okay, we'll go ahead into the next point of politics and qualitative research. Just give me a second. My room is getting dark. Okay. Malaysia is going to rain outside. I can see it's getting really cloudy. So if the internet in between starts acting up, it's because of the rainy weather. So we are talking about validity and reliability, very, very common words which are used in research, and many positivist researchers, old school researchers, they always talk about validity, reliability in your research. This is a very scientific method. That's why I showed you this page. Very, very scientific way of thinking, very positivist way of thinking, very objective way of thinking. That is it valid? Is it reliable? Reliable means the same interview, if I do it in America, in Japan, and Australia, I'll get exactly the same result. And we qualitative researchers who come from social sciences or any other field, we say knowledge is not valid and reliable throughout the world. Knowledge is subjective. That means there is multiple realities. what happened with you in your time may not happen with me in my time. You know, when people talk about generation gap, qualitative people like us may have created this word, generation gap, because we realize that even people who are 20 years ago, I am right now in Subang Jaya or Petaling Jaya, Malaysia. Somebody sitting with, like me in Petaling Jaya, Malaysia 20 years ago or 30 years ago had completely different thinking about this place. And his attitude, behavior was completely different. So it is not very, especially people's attitudes, behaviors, observations are very, very subjective. They change over time, they change over distances. They also change over who is doing the interview. If same people, same place, same respondent, but different kind of researcher will generate different kind of answers. So that is what qualitative people believe in, and that is what we favor also. So the traditional criteria, they talk about internal validity, external validity, and reliability. However, qualitative researchers, and they also say that knowledge is objective. However, qualitative researchers like us, we have alternate criteria for judging our work. We say, is the work credible? Is the work transferable? Is the work dependable? Is the work conformable? If there's, instead of objectivity, is there conformability? So these are different types of words. These are different types of judging criteria for qualitative research. If you or your supervisor, or if anybody uses words which are validity and reliability, I highly recommend you to start using alternate criteria for judging qualitative work, which is credibility, transferability. Is the work credible? I don't care whether it's valid in Malaysia and China. It will not be valid in China. But is it credible in China? Do the local people in China believe what you did and find out in that place? It may not be valid in Malaysia. Remember, I gave you the example of durian. And people like Malaysia says, oh, durian is the most famous fruit, is the king of fruits. Yeah, in Malaysia. But if you talk about the world, maybe 5% of the world loves it. 95% says it's horrible. So it's not reliable. It's not valid. You cannot take the same experiment all over the world because you will get different results. So the validity, reliability is very scientific. Scientific things can be validated. For example, oxygen will be oxygen any place on this planet. It will be H2O everywhere. Or O2, sorry. H2 is water. So water will be water everywhere on the planet. That's scientific. But social sciences, attitudes, behaviors, expressions of people change, depend on who they are and where they are. Okay, let's go slightly faster now because I need to finish my slides. Internal validity is a study of internally validating what the results are, effects on the dependent variable. Okay, let's not talk more about qualitative. So this is what quantitative people do. They see whether things are credible or not. They talk about validity, whether it is the same answer everywhere in different parts of the world. So validity concerns the degree to which an account is accurate or truthful. So they see whether things are valid or not, answers are valid or not. Validity concerns the degree to which a finding is judged to have been interpreted in the correct way. Okay. In qualitative research, we don't do validity. We do things like thick descriptions. This gives it positive qualitative answers. When you do thick descriptions, you interpret validity in a qualitative way. We explain our stuff in detail. We don't show you numbers. We don't show you mean, median, mode, ANOVA tests to prove what has been written, but we explain stuff in thick descriptions. And that is why when qualitative researchers usually ask me for example, what's the word limit? I always assume qualitative researchers will always write more than the word limit, because you have to do thick description, describe situations in detail. Quantitative can show you a table and explain in a paragraph, but to qualitatively explain your point, hammer your point home, you have to talk in detail. You have to explain situations in detail. You have to give me lots of examples. Then I understand, that the qualitative research makes sense. So I'll skip the validity part. And again, what we do in qualitative research is called triangulation. Triangulation basically means you try and get the same answer from multiple methods of data collection. That is what we can do. Quantitative people would say validity, but we will do, for example, something called triangulation. I want all of you to read a little bit about triangulation. Maybe you do, remember again, I'll go to that quote by Margaret Mead. What people say, what people do, what people say that they do are completely different. So what people say, that means you interview somebody, you get some answers from them. So what people say. Now, triangulation means I'll do another method of data collection. I heard what you said. I took the interview from you. Now I will do participant observation. I will spend time with you in the field and see, while spending time with you in the field, I'll see whether you do what you say. For example, you say, oh, I love spicy Korean noodles. I love that spicy thing. I always eat it. It's my favorite food. That's your answer during interviews, that you love spicy noodle. Then I do participant observation. I say, hey, let's go for lunch. And then we become friends. And then we go for lunch or we study together. Whenever we are eating together 3-4 times, and I realized I never saw you ordering spicy noodle. Sometimes you go to the mamak, sometimes you go and buy spring rolls, sometimes you just eat chicken sandwich and beef burgers. And then so I realized what you say and what you do is different. So I took an interview and I did participant observation. Then I triangulate this and I say there is difference. So I do another interview, or maybe I do another method of data collection, non-participant observation. Non-participant observation means I just sit down in one corner in a restaurant and I observe you and other people like you coming and eating. How many of you people order spicy Korean noodle? And I take field notes. Again, I'll show you example of field notes in the future. I may have my PhD field notes on my table somewhere. So I did lots of field notes. So you can do field notes, and then that's triangulation. You're doing multiple methods of collecting the same data, from interviews, from participant observation, from non-participant observation, from field notes, and then you triangulate the answer, and then you tell the world, I did this, I found the answer. I also did another way, I found the same answer. I did another way to find the same answer. So that's triangulation. Multiple methods to collect your qualitative data. Now it's going to rain outside. Yes, Tianmin. It's going to rain anytime soon. Okay, let's validity and reliability. I'll not talk so much about that. So instead of reliability, we are looking for dependability. Dependability is concerned with whether we obtain the same results if we observe the same thing twice. That's dependable. That's dependability. That means I interview you doing this today, and then I interview you after 1 week, I get the same kind of answers. Or I observe, when I say you mean the respondents, I observe the respondents today, and I come after 1 week, I observe the respondents again, I get the same answer. That's dependable results. So that's dependability. Dependability only comes when you spend time in the field. When you spend lots of, so that's why qualitative research takes time. We spend more time in the field. The researcher is responsible for describing the changes that occur in the setting and how these changes affect the way the research is supposed to study the approach. Okay. Reliability. How you can achieve reliability in qualitative research? By standardizing the data collection techniques. You decide on the data collection technique and stick throughout your data collection. Document whatever data you collect, you document it. And when you document it not just the interview, but also do field notes. Field notes is what we call the date, the time, the place, what was happening, what was the sight and the sound and the colors, what was the people wearing, what were they acting, what was their attitude, what was the behavior, how was they feeling that day. Write down all this. That's thick descriptions. And that's what you do in a field note. So again, you can Google what is a field note. Read about making field notes while doing data collection. Okay. I told you this already. You can do in-depth interviews or participant observations, or you can do multiple ways. You can do 2 or 3 of them together as well. Somebody says, how to justify dependability in interview if there is unavailable to interview the same participant the second time. Okay, if you cannot do the same participant second time, it's okay. You don't have to do the same participant, the same type of people. Your respondents is a group of people, not that one person only. So for example, I was interviewing tourists. I call them Hare Krishna tourists. They are a particular type of religious order within Hinduism. So those Hare Krishnas are not just Hindus from India, but they are Hindus from all across the world. So, and they are tourists. So that means they will come to a city and then they will move off and other tourists will come. So when I interview Hare Krishnas, today I may interview a Hare Krishna from Russia, from Japan, and from India. Tomorrow I may not find him. I may find another Hare Krishna from India, from Argentina, and from USA. So they are Hare Krishnas, they are tourists, and they are visiting. Let's say I did it in New Delhi in India. So they are in New Delhi in India. Doesn't have to be the same person. Of course, if you are able to spend more time with them, let's say a tourist came to your city and he says, oh, I'm going to be in the city for the next 3 days. Try and build a relationship with them so that you can sit with them. You can meet them again and again in the next 2 or 3 days. Spend more time with them. And then you can get the telephone numbers, their email addresses, WhatsApp numbers. So then you always tell them that thanks for your time. Lovely to meet you. Enjoy yourself. Can I talk to you? If I have any other questions, can I email you? Or can we be friends on Facebook? Lane, your mic is off. Your mic is on. All right, okay. So you can get Lei Chen, you can get dependability by interviewing the same type of people again and again. So qualitative research, we basically do until data saturation is reached. You never say, I will interview 5 people or 10 people or 50 people. You keep interviewing the same type of people until you're not getting any new data. You're getting a repeat of the data. And that is why I say qualitative research is not linear, it is cyclic. You cannot do introduction chapter, literature, methodology, data collection, analysis. No. It could be introduction chapter, literature review, methodology, data collection, analysis, data collection, analysis, data collection, analysis. Cyclic. Keep going again and again. If you don't analyze, you don't know when your data saturation is reached. So again, get out of that linear, people draw a diagram. I hate it when people show the diagram, like I showed you earlier. The qualitative doesn't go like that. Qualitative is very messed up. It's very messy. But that's what life is. Life is very messy. But that is life. It's not mathematics, it's life. So analyze your data every day. When you are in the field, let's say you're collecting your data, whatever methods you're doing. I'm talking too much about interview. Let me forget interview. Let's say I'm doing participant observation. I spend time in the field acting like, let's say I'm a tourist. I go to Langkawi as a tourist and I'm observing other tourists in Langkawi. So I'm also doing the tourism activity. I'm also sitting on the beach, going in the car, climbing the mountain, da, da, da. And while I do these activities, I talk to the other people. Hey, how are you? Hi, I'm from Malaysia. Where are you from? And then we become friends. Then we talk. And then I tell them I am a PhD researcher, but I am also a tourist. So that's participant observation. Huh? You do what they are doing. You participate also. So you keep participating. You keep spending 1 day, 1 week, 2 weeks in that, wherever is your field. Let's say I'm saying Langkawi, it could be anywhere. You spend time there until you realize every day you talk to people, you come home, you start analyzing. You start building some codes, get some ideas, what's happening. And then after 1 week, 2 weeks, I don't know, 1 month, like for example, ethnographic data takes time. I spent time 4 years. My data collection was 4 years with the people, on and off, of course, not every day, because I'm a full-time lecturer in Taylor's also. So, you spend a lot of time with the people, see what's happening with them, how they act, how they behave. And until finally you decide that, okay, I'm not getting anything new. It's a repeat of the same kind of answers I'm getting to my research question. Then you know you've reached data collection, data saturation. So data saturation can happen anywhere, by reading documents, by looking at videos or audio photos. It can happen by doing face-to-face in the field interviews. It could have by spending time in the field, by doing observations. So keep doing until you reach saturation. Qualitative ways of data collection, all of you know already. Interviews, participant observation, and looking at documentation, non-participant observation as well. Oh, my photos are stopping my screen. Okay. All right, it's raining already. What's the time now? Huh? 4:30. Okay, we have half an hour. So just give me a second, guys. Let me switch on my light. It's got really dark in my room. All right. So the next would be collecting qualitative data. You can do purposive sampling, you can do maximal variation sampling, you can do extreme case sampling. These are all various sampling methods. Again, I'm not going to discuss much about your sampling methods. Homogeneous sampling, critical sampling, opportunistic sampling, confirm or disconfirming sampling. So there may be many styles of sampling methods. You can read this. People talk about sample size. Again, I told you, I don't care about your sample size, whether you interview 1 Bill Gates or you interview 50 tourists, as long as you get all your data and you can explain in your analysis that you've got your data, whatever data you got saturation already. And sometimes you need gatekeepers to enter the site. This is a photo of me standing with these in my field. So I did it with a group of religious tourists who are called Hare Krishnas. Now, usually in India or abroad, they're usually shaved heads and wearing red clothes, and usually they are singing and dancing on the streets. So their way of reaching God is by singing and dancing and singing praise to the Lord. So it's a denomination of Hinduism, And so I spend time with them. And for me to enter the time with them, to enter the field, sometimes you need somebody who's a gatekeeper. A gatekeeper is an individual who is an official or unofficial role at the site. He provides you entrance to the site, helps the researchers locate the people, and assist in identification of the place to study. And this is said by Hammersley and Atkinson. So for me, for example, the gatekeeper was this gentleman here. He was one of the Hare Krishnas. Again, the type of clothing he wears and the type of clothing he wears, they have, again, there's a lot of meaning behind it. I will not go into my research. It'll get too boring for you. But he was my gatekeeper. And this is my first day of data collection in India. So he came with me. We went to one of the temples where a lot of foreign religious tourists come, and the local people, like, so they're selling religious books, for example, the gentleman is selling. And then he slowly introduced me to this site. And you will not believe it, this is my only photo with my respondents. Somehow I realized that when I click photos with them, they don't feel comfortable. You can see just looking at this photo, none of them are looking at the camera, even when I told them that I'm clicking a photo. So I realized that I should not be clicking their photos, and they don't like selfies and all these things. So they like to talk, they like to be friendly, they like to sit down with you, have a chat, talk about everything. So that's what I did. This is my only photo with them. So he was my gatekeeper. He slowly introduced me to one guy. The guy told him to meet another manager. And then I met the head of this, for example, temple. He introduced me to some other tourists who were staying there in the hostels around it, like an ashram, like a hostel where they come, they learn whatever they want to learn. So a gatekeeper is very important for qualitative research, who gets you into the field. But also remember, sometimes or over a period of time, you don't need gatekeepers anymore. There was a time when I knew more people than him in this religious denomination, because I used to enter the field at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, because they would start their early morning prayers at 4 in the morning. I would leave my home at 2 in the morning and reach the temple area or wherever they were doing. And 4 in the morning, I would stay with them all day. He would go to the temples maybe once a week or once a month. So after a while, I knew I was a gatekeeper to many other people, because I knew so many people. I became friends with so many people. And then from being an outsider to being a semi-insider, I was never a fully insider, but I was always an outsider who slowly became an insider. So I became a part of them. But again, the type of questions you ask in qualitative research, one wrong question and you can be termed an outsider again. Again, we'll discuss that in what happened with me, and how maybe just, for example, I'm sitting with some very senior religious guru, and he, somebody who's very about his food habits, because I come from hospitality. So my research was on how food affects their tourism behavior. So I'm talking about food and things like that. Suddenly I asked a question about food, and just by looking at the person's eyes, when he's answering me, the eyes hardened and they turned into stone, they turned so blank towards me that I knew that I asked the wrong question, or I pushed him too far. And suddenly, from being an insider, suddenly to being, feeling like I'm a Hare Krishna with them, I was suddenly an outsider. And then I had to work my way back to becoming an insider again. So it's very, very interesting. And this journey, which all of you will have in qualitative research, is very interesting. You are very interesting in your qualitative research. So when you're doing analysis, remember, your feelings, your thoughts, your actions also are very important whenever you're doing analysis. Don't forget, don't only talk about your respondent, also talk about yourself in your analysis. What information will you collect? You will gather open-ended first-hand information by observing people, places at the site. As a participant observer, you will assume the role of an inside observer. You will become them. As a non-participant observer, you will visit the site, record, take notes, become involved in the activities as an outsider. So for example, I became an insider when I started, singing and dancing with them early in the morning while they do their prayers. It's very early in the morning. It's still dark. They start their prayers and they start singing and then start dancing and music. And then I started doing that. I never wore their clothes. They knew I was not a Hare Krishna. I am comfortable in a t-shirt. I would be wearing my jeans and t-shirt with my laptop and laptop bag behind me. And I would be singing and dancing with them. And after a while, they made me an insider. They would call me before the prayer started. They would call me when they are going for breakfast. They would call me when they're going for lunch. They would call me if there's a special talk by some visiting, senior speaker or somebody. But sometimes I was a non-participant observer. I would go to another city, to another temple, or to another religious tourist site where all these tourists go, and nobody knows me. So I was an outsider. I would just sit down and take field notes, just observe what people are doing. No interviews, nothing. Just sit down from 10 hours a day, from 8 o'clock in the morning till 6 in the evening. Just observe, take notes. So that's non-participant observation. And you change your roles as depends on, like I told you, depends on your day, depends where you are. And then you can also do interviews after that. Do we have time to discuss this? Okay, the process of observing. How do you observe people? How do you look at people? Select a site to be observed that can best help you understand the central phenomenon. Ease into the site slowly by looking around, get a general sense of the site, and take limited notes. At the moment, don't take too much notes. First, look, learn to look. That's very important. Sometimes, we don't know how to look. We just see. Don't just see. Really look. Really observe what's happening. Identify who or what you want to observe, when you want to observe, and how long you want to observe. Determine initially your role as the observer. Are you internal? Are you going to be insider or outsider? What's your role? Conduct multiple observations over time. Multiple observations over a period of time, not just one day, to obtain the best understanding of the situation and the individuals. Design some means of recording notes during observation. Recording notes could be, you can put it on your mobile phone. Sometimes I would just, the recorder on your phone, I'll say 21st July 21st July 2005 or 2015. Today this is happening. Just remember something. Trust me, a lot of things which you observe, you will forget. So to stop yourself forgetting, either make field notes or write down things on mobile phone, or even if you have a diary or something, anything is fine, as long as you have some data. Consider what information you will record during the observations. Record descriptive and reflective field notes. Descriptive and reflective, these are different things. Describe the situation. For example, again, I'll give you my example. I'm sitting there. Okay, so I'll say, I'm sitting in the garden. The weather is getting really hot. There's, everybody's feeling a little bit too sweaty now. Nobody wants to sit down and enjoy or talk to each other. There's some people sitting under the tree. Maybe I'll go and observe them. So, or I'll say, okay, they look like a family because I see 2 adults, 2 children, So that's my description of the situation. or description, I could also describe their clothing and everything. I'll say, okay, they all look from a rich background because I can see a lot of jewelry on the woman. I can see children having iPhones in their hand and da, da, da. So I'm describing the situation. Maybe these things will later help me analyze the situation. And then the second part is, after you describe, you reflect on these field notes. So after you, maybe you talk to them or whatever, then you reflect, what does it mean? Regard reflection is you thinking about the situation. Describing is what you see over there. So you describe, then you reflect, think about it. Make yourself known, let the people know who you are. Never hide don't hide that you are a researcher. People should know that you're a researcher. But remain unobtrusive. Don't disrupt whatever's happening. If people are doing something, don't come in between. For example, I would enter, sometimes these Hare Krishnas, they would do, vegetarian kitchens. They would cook lots of food for lots of people, and then they will distribute food to things. So I found a way to enter their kitchens to observe or to click a few photos of the kitchen, how they're cooking. So again, remember the social structure. If I look really smartly turned out and everything, all the workers in the kitchen will feel uncomfortable. They will start acting out what is their regular behavior. So therefore, remember all these things. Don't be in the middle of it. Don't say, okay, people do your work, I want to see. Just come, see a little bit, walk away. Don't let people get uncomfortable. Otherwise, they will start acting rather than being normal, doing their regular behavior. After observing, slowly withdraw from the site. Yeah. Don't let the world know, I came, I left. No, you are just one of the people in the crowd. Let the people know that you are a researcher, but then you are a part of the crowd. And after a while, when you've got enough data, you leave. Again, don't need to announce to the whole world that I'm leaving. When you're doing interviews, it's one of the main methods of data collection. It is a good way to access people's perceptions, meanings, and definitions of situation and construction of reality. This is when I see construction of reality, I always think of two people. They're called Berger and Luckman. Let me write it down. Berger and Luckman came up with a theory which is called social construction. I think it was 1956 or 1966, something like that, nearly 50 years ago, 1976. So if you have time, also do read about social construction of reality and how this reality is constructed. Jones said, in order to understand people's construction of reality, we would do well to ask them, and to ask them in such a way that they can tell us in their terms in a depth which addresses the rich context, that is the substance of their meanings. So sometimes you have to talk to people, because when you talk to people, whatever observations you've done gets validated, or you get triangulation of whatever observation you've done. So you may have observed, but when you talk to people, you get much deeper meanings. And sometimes your observations, you will realize, were wrong. Like, the Western anthropologist coming to the East and observing the Eastern, I come from India, so I give you Indian examples. The Western British ethnographer coming to India, they have the British Raj. They call it they came for business, but they started ruling the country. So they came, and the ethnographers came with them, and they observed the India from a very high level of gaze. I'm up here, you are down there. And their understanding of reality was so different. So they understood For example, in India, we have something called the caste system. They understood the caste system completely wrong, and they created a negative perception about it. Or they saw something like a dowry system. Asia has a dowry system. Even in Malay culture, Chinese culture, in Indian culture, there's dowry system where money exchange takes place. So there was, again, if you go into real depth, there was a lot of positive meanings for things which were done in the past. But his gaze or their gaze only saw the negative things happening around. And then they say, this is what's happening and this is the wrong things happening in Asian culture. So sometimes you will do better if you interview people and you really talk to them. That's when you get, of course, the people may have a facade. They will have a fake face in front of you. But remember, the longer time you spend with them, the faster the facade will go away and you will realize their real intentions. So that is why spending time in the field is very important. You spend more and more time with them. Don't just do half an hour interview and go away. You say, hey, can I spend time with you? Can we go for lunch? Can we sit down here? Da, da, da. Spend more time. After a while, that facade goes away and the real person comes out. And that's when you get thick descriptions. So interviewing has various forms. You can do individual interviews, face-to-face verbal interchange. Group interviewing can be done. Mailed or self-administered questionnaire. I told you about the negative about this. Telephonic service can be done. Again, on the telephone, you can get answers. Interviews could be structured. That means you only have 10 questions, nothing else. Semi-structured. That means what I showed you, my example. I have a few research objectives. Under research objective, I've got a few questions to ask. But I can ask more if I want. That's semi-structured. Unstructured means I have no structure. I just remember my research objectives. And then I go to the field, I ask whatever I want. Unstructured is a little bit tough to do because you don't have a focus. But sometimes for some kind of research, unstructured is also very nice. You can get really thick descriptions. You have to spend a lot of time with the people. You'll get a lot of rich data coming out. So again, I've explained this to you. You can study about it in detail. Focus groups is something very, very interesting, especially if you don't have enough time. And if you can manage focus groups, you can also get a lot of thick descriptions. Maybe you get 5, 6, 8 people maximum, 6 to 7 people in a group. You remember your research questions, you bring it there, and then you are the moderator. You made them sit in a room. Maybe you have a camera on the corner with the audio recorder, and then you pose the question to them and then let them answer. So people in focus groups, they play off each other's answer. So people will, somebody will say something, another person will answer to him, and then you can see them answering. And when one person hears another's opinion, he remembers more ideas he wants to talk about. And then you are the moderator. You make them talk, you make them move around, and then you go to the next question, you jump to the first question. You get answers to all your questions while you record. So you may have a 2 or 3 hour discussion, but you got a focus group of 7 or 8 people. Then you only have to analyze this one video. Then you analyze one. Instead of doing 8 interviews, you did 1 focus group. And like this, you do a few focus groups and you've got enough answers already. So focus groups are also very good. Focus group also has some issues. Again, you can study about this. You need to get people, you need to have a place, you need to have a camera to record. People should be free at that time. Things like that. Maybe you need to provide them biscuits and tea so that they are comfortable sitting down. maybe you get the right type of people together. Maybe some ladies and men, let's say from Malaysian Chinese all together, because then they'll suddenly become more friendly, for example, or teenagers, all teenagers together. Don't get teenagers and old people. Maybe they don't want to talk to each other, so you are not getting enough data. So you have to be very smart when you do focus groups. So get the right kind of people so that they talk. Also, focus groups, don't get, sometimes you get a focus group where everybody talks so much that your focus group becomes crazy. And then you have another focus group where you got 6 people, nobody likes to talk. Somebody says, yes, I like a yellow t-shirt. The other one, Third one, okay. So you're not getting enough data. So you want people who are, it's like a mixed group. Some talk, some don't talk. And then get them to become friends slowly, and respond to each other. Conducting interviews, identify the interviewer, determine the type of interview you want to use, develop the interview. During the interview, audio tape the question and responses. During my time, I used to use either a mobile phone. My mobile phone, I'll use the video recording, and I would either put it in my pocket, or sometimes it's a very noisy environment. I would tell the person, can you keep my phone in your pocket? So that, or wherever my speakers are, just keep it close to you. Or sometimes I would not use phone, I use my laptop. This laptop, the tailor's laptop. Because the laptop also has a recording function. So I would just keep the laptop in. Let's say I'm sitting with somebody in his room, a guest, a tourist is staying in a hotel room. I become friends with him. He invites me to his room. So, I know the person will be more comfortable in his room with the aircon on. Outside is very hot. He doesn't want to sit under the tree. So I'm sitting in a hotel room with him. He's relaxed. He's sitting on the sofa. So I just put the laptop on the computer table, switch on. So he knows I'm recording his voice. And then I just sit down with my research questions and I say, okay, Stephen, tell me about this. What do you think about that? So we can do like, take notes if you want in your field notes. In a quiet place, conduct the interview, obtain their consent, of course. Have a plan, but be flexible. Sometimes people get busy and that can get really irritating. For example, I interviewed a person who, I interviewed him in his office. So while sitting in his office, every few minutes he gets a phone call and suddenly he goes away somewhere, in his own world. Or suddenly some people walk in and they ask him questions. But even that helped me with my analysis. I'll not go into the detail how that affected my analysis. But yes, again, that comes to what people say and what people do are completely different things. He would say something to me in the interview, but when I saw him talking on the phone, there was a big difference, and that really shocked me. So then I realized that what people say is not always the truth. Sometimes your observation skills are very important. So be flexible. Or sometimes they'll call you for a meeting, but they cancel last minute. Use probes to ask probing questions. Be courteous and professional when the interview is over, of course. Who will be interviewed and why? How many interviews will take place with the person? When and how long will the interview be done? These are practical aspects you need to think about. Where will the respondents be interviewed? How will you access the interview situation? How will you organize that interview? Sometimes you can call them to your place wherever you're doing interviews. Sometimes you will have to enter their location. Sometimes I went to people's house. Sometimes I went to people's office. Sometimes I went to people's hotel room. Sometimes I, sat in the temple gardens while people are relaxing. So you have to find a place. For managing the interview, prepare for the interview and the interview schedule. Begin the interview, establish rapport with them. establishing rapport, this is your personal thing. Huh? I don't know how you do it. For me, example, I'm personally a very shy person. I feel very uncomfortable approaching new people. But then that's my job. I have to do it. So slowly, you have to, don't be shy. Sometimes it feels as if you are a marketing person on the road, like in the mall when somebody approach you with a credit card. Do you want my credit card? I felt like that. And I felt people saw me sometimes like that. I'm carrying a camera hanging in my neck and a diary and a notepad. And suddenly, excuse me. And they'll say, sorry. So you have to find a way to build rapport with the person. Have good communication and listening skills. Communication means, again, your interview can be in English, can be in other languages. If you're in China, you're doing interviews in China, and your respondents speak very well Mandarin or Cantonese, you can do it. Of course, there's a challenge because you have to convert the interviews into a different language. You have to convert into English, and then you have to analyze in English. So those are different challenges. Those are logistical challenges. But you can do communication in other languages also, no issues. Have listening skills. Listen to people. Don't just hear their voice. Listen to what they're saying. When you listen to them, while you're listening to them, your mind is automatically analyzing. Your brain says, I'll do analysis in September, but your mind is analyzing right now. While he's speaking, okay. You're analyzing and you're building up another question like that. And that's your semi-structured interview. Is it? Okay, I got your answer. However, this is what you said. Can you explain more about that? So your brain, as you're analyzing, you ask another question. And that only comes if you have good listening skills. Ask the question in the sequence which you prepared. Close the interview. Okay, you know this already. You can get information from anywhere, from newspapers, minutes of meeting, personal journals, letters, etc. Again, I will not go into detail. I think we are over time already. So qualitative data consists of words, observations, and not numbers. Please remember this. All the data analysis and interpretation is required to bring order to the understanding. So you have to be able to understand what everybody's saying. And this requires creativity. It requires a lot of discipline, and it requires a systematic approach. There's no single or no best way. As a qualitative researcher, as a qualitative lecturer to you, I can give you my suggestions. Let's say you are doing some research papers regarding your topic. You want my help, you can always contact me. I can give you my suggestions for your research papers. But those are my suggestions. Those are not written in gold. Those are not commandments. Again, remember, I'm a qualitative researcher and I believe in guidelines, not rules. Sciences have rules. You can only mix salt and sodium and potassium. You cannot make magnesium because there will be a bomb. Okay. That's scientific rules. But social sciences, it's opinions and guidelines. It is suggested to do that. So if we are doing a paper, let's say you want to do a paper and you want my help. You say, Mayukh, I'm doing this paper. Can you help me with the methodology? Of course I can. But I'll give you my suggestions based on your topic. It is up to you to follow the suggestions or not. And it's up to you to decide what is the right way to analyze the data. For me, it could be participant observation, but for you, you would say, no, I think only interview is enough. Or you would say, I don't want to do field notes. I think only participant observation and interview is enough. So find your own way. Again, when you analyze the data, analysis is also systematic. Analysis people will do. Some people like to do manual analysis. Some people like to use software. Like quantitative people use SPSS, Smart PLS. Qualitative like us, we will use NVivo or Atlas TI and things like that. But many people like me, I'm old school. I like to do everything manually. So it depends on who you are and what you like, how you like to present your data. All this depends on the question you want the answer to. It depends on the what will you do with the information. It also depends on your resources, your financial resources, your intellectual resources. You cannot talk too much in English. You cannot do too many interviews in English. You may have to do in Chinese. Or you don't have enough money to travel to 20 cities. You'll have to do the research in one city only. Your resources could be, you don't have money to buy NVivo or Atlas TI, then you'll have to do manual. For me, it was, the reason I did manual was because I liked it. It's not that I didn't have money. I could have borrowed money from tailors or taken a loan to buy, or save some money to buy the software. But I preferred doing manually. So your resources, depend on your resources. Again, like I like to do the interview in English because I'm more comfortable in English compared to any other language. So all my interviews were in English. Even with people who speak my language, I prefer to do it in English. Okay. Yeah, so I told you this: open-ended surveys, transcribe your interviews, write things, take notes, make field notes, write your log diaries, and then you publish your report. You can also read published reports to get data. Okay, there's too many things, similar things. I'm talking about similar things again and again. Okay, we are on time already. I think, yeah, so I have quite a few other things to discuss, but let's finish over here. So how to organize your data? First, you get your data, find a way to organize the data yourself. Then you find a way to transcribe your data, again, based on your resources. Some people have money, they give it to outside people, they give the interviews to people, and those people, those companies will charge you money to transcribe your data into a Word document and give it back to you. You save time, but then you spend money. What I did not give my interviews to anybody. I said, I will transcribe the interview myself, because I realized that when I transcribe the interview myself, I get much better transcription. Because I interviewed, sometimes you will send to these companies, they cannot understand your voice, they cannot understand the answers, so they will just write some rubbish they'll give you. The answer written in the Word document is not what is in your audio recording, is different. So, because again, there is a big distance between them and the data. The distance between you and the data is very less, because you did the interview, you know it. And again, what I used to do was interview in the morning, transcribe at night. Every day night after dinner, 10 o'clock, I'll sit down, 10 to maybe 12 or 1, whatever, depends how tired I am. I'll do the transcription. So it's like double knowledge. I listen to you in the morning, I'm writing your answers at night. So, and at night when I'm writing your answer, suddenly I realize, hey, shit, I should have asked another question. The next day morning, if I see you again, I'll ask you another question, answer. If I don't see you, maybe the other question, I remember the question, I'll ask another person. So analyze. I think I'll finish with this. We are over time already. So again, everybody, I talk a lot sometimes. What I want all of you to do is, please read those few journals or those articles which I've given you. Again, some of you have been asking for my PowerPoints. My PowerPoints will not help you with your methodology chapter because I don't have any references in my PowerPoint. And what will help you would be the articles which I've given on Microsoft Teams. Somebody's asking me, will you share example of assignment 1 like HD exam? I don't know what is HD exam. pass example or fail example. I won't say your name, my dear, but I don't have any examples with me at the moment. Again, remember, there is no pass or fail, or there's no good or bad paper. I just, again, remember you're doing qualitative work. So look at my guidelines for your assignment 1, which is due next week on Thursday. And talk about your topic. You're only talking about your topic. So there is nothing good about one topic or bad about another topic. The only good or bad I can think about is grammar. Some people have good grammar, some people English is bad. But that's a very small problem. That's not a big problem. Internet can help you. Microsoft Word can help you. Grammarly can help you. Other than that, it's all about follow the word limit, follow the format I gave you, talk about your research topic, and then explain what you're doing, how you're doing, what is your paradigm. Explain in your own words. There is no good or bad. Reference the construction you show and find. I didn't understand what you're saying. What do you mean by reference the construction you show in file? What do you mean by this? Can you switch on your mic and ask me maybe? Guidelines. The guidelines I have shared already. The guidelines are given in your times also. Let me show you again. Assignment 1 guidelines. Yeah. So these are the guidelines. This is the cover page you need to do. Assignments. You are write an essay. Explain and reflect upon the reasons behind you and your methodological choices. You tell me why you're doing qualitative research, which methodology you're using. Try to answer these questions in this essay. What is the methodological assumptions in my doctoral study? Tell me what kind of methodology you're using. Talk about your paradigm. In fact, talk about paradigm first. If I was writing your paper, I would say, first I'll talk about my paradigm, my ontology, my epistemology, methodology, and axiology. Then I'll talk about the methodological assumptions. Then I'll talk, more about them in detail. That's all. So you're just talking about who you are, what is your thinking of the world, what's your worldview, how do you understand knowledge, what do you want to do, and why you want to do it that way. Science New Roman 12, 1.5 spacing, 1,000 words only. 1,000 word is nothing. It's like 2 or 3 pages only. And that does not include reference list. Reference list is extra. So every page should, your work in the end should have reference list. Again, APA 6th or 7th edition, whatever Taylor's wants. APA version 6, I think usually. Don't write more than, don't write 1,500, 1,600 words. Just keep it 1,000 words.
Sorry, Dr. Mike, just to rephrase that question on citations. I do have citations, but I've got a lot of references, but I've not had physical time to think through and put in, too many citations within that 1,000. If I do, I'll end up talking too much, rather than telling you what the gist of what I want to say in terms of methodology. So is that fine?
Should be fine, as long as, Fiona, you are telling me what you want to do. As long as you're saying, this is what I believe in, this is what I want to do. But if you're talking about, let's say you're saying, I believe in qualitative research because, when you say because, you'll explain something, right?
Correct.
When you explain that something, that explanation came from your knowledge from some book or some author. So that reference you'll have to put in the end.
Okay.
I believe in positivist, or I believe in interpretivist paradigm because according to Denjin, and that is what I believe in.
Yeah. I do have a little bit of that, but when it comes to me explaining what it is I'm doing, my methodology itself, I've done quite a bit of that as well. And in order to make it good academically, I will have to increase my word count. So, I've had to debate on that. Therefore, produce less in citations to accommodate content.
So your citations, again, I don't want citations, and your citation should not be according to Mayukh, inverted comma, you give me one paragraph said by Mayukh. No.
No. Yeah.
Your citation should be in a way that you explain your point and then you take the help of Mayukh 2015 to explain
Correct.
your point. So
Correct.
it is your
Yeah.
explanations supported by Mayukh 2015.
Sorry, Dr. Mayukh, just to interrupt. I mean, I want to make a confirmation, because actually when I look at the assessment, right, itself, right, actually it's kind of it's about the reflective essay about why do I choose qualitative as my research topic, right? So more towards we just only give the reason why, and then what type of the paradigm that we are going to use for our own research method, and then further explain more.
Correct.
Okay, sure. So, and then, by the way, I believe that in-text citation should not count as words, right? Because that is part of referencing.
In-text citation is counted in your word limit, but your reference list is not counted in the word limit.
Reference list is not counted. Then, if I put if I put a lot of in-text citation, then it would be exceed the word count limit.
In-text citation is fine. In-text cite, again, let me give you an example.
Because we got two types of in-text citation. One is we putting after end of the word, we could end of the sentence, and another one is.
Let's open a paper. Let's open a research paper like this.
Because sometimes you see the dilemma is this, Dr. Mayukh, sometimes we put there one citation, no problem. But when it's academic, we sometimes have to put 4 or 5 people who agree on a particular thing.
No
the citations.
worries. You see, okay,
so that's when the word count goes.
And Kendrick, look at this.
Yeah, sure.
This is a beautiful paper. I'm going to give it to you later on. It's there in your teams already. This in-text citation, don't put it in my essay, which is, this citation is actually like a big story and then he's explaining this. That's too big. But if you're talking about these in-text citations, like Creswell, this is completely okay. Or in the last 30 years, positivist idea that is value free, and then you give me 5 people's names here. No worries at all. So these
those 5 people's names are not counted in our word count.
No, this is counted in your word count.
Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
This is your
In-text
word
citation
count.
is counted.
Yes,
so end of the day, we just only write around 500, 600 words.
All
is
this is
no,
not counted.
If you do it, you're writing about 900 words and then your citations come to about 100. That's how it works.
If your writing is 900 word in-text citation, but in-text citation 100 words, I don't think
give or take, depending how many citations you're putting in
Can
be 50
again,
to 100.
see guys, you are talking from a very positivist mindset. You're talking about numbers again. I don't care about numbers. I'm your lecturer here and I'm telling you this. I don't care about your numbers. I don't care if you write 800 words or 1,500 words. I don't care. And I told all of you adults, all of you are PhD students, I told you last week itself, all of you have passed my module. As long as you follow the guidelines. What I'm trying to tell you is, try and understand my way of thinking. What I'm trying to tell you is, whatever you write in your 1,000 words in your first essay, or 2,000 words or 3,000 words in all your essays, that meaning is very important for me. What you want to do, why you want to do, what is the reasons for you to do it. And all your reasons and all this, you can refer to some people, you can refer to some books, you can refer to, let's say you think, I want to do participant observation because, then you want to give your reasons for doing participant observation. You go to any book which tells you about participant observation, you follow, you can copy a lot of things from there and say, according to Kendrick 2005, I want to do participant observation because it helps me in point 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Sure.
You're getting ideas from somebody, but you are giving him
I mean, like we further explain and then further elaborate.
Yes, correct. So I'm concerned about what you write. Does that make sense or not? I'm
Can,
not
sure.
concerned about how many citations you have. Your reference
Okay.
list for your assignment could be 5 or it could be 25. I don't care about that.
And
I don't
thank
give you
you.
marks on how many you got.
Can, sure.
Thank you. I think
Authors,
you
I will
are
tell
aware.
you guys.
Yeah, I
These
think
are the
you're
authors
aware.
here.
We've had lecturers who are like that. That's why we have to double confirm. Sorry, sir.
No issues at all, Fiona. It's completely fine. By the way, this is the author I was telling you about, Denzin and Lincoln. These are my favorite authors. In fact, this book, it's available in Taylor's library. There's a few copies. If I remember last time, there's like 5 or 6 copies. Sage Handbook of Qualitative Research. Excellent book for you to understand. So do find time to read all this and do submit your assignments by next week, Thursday. And if you have any questions, definitely you can ask me whenever you want.
Sorry, Dr. Mayukh. I just want to ask whether we can actually write this in first person basis, like using I, you, and we.
Fantastic question, Maza. First person basis is in the heart of qualitative research. So it is, I personally am very open in first person writing acceptance. But usually first person writing should come in, you can write it in your methodology chapter. Don't write it in your literature review chapter at all. And you can also write it in your analysis chapter. So methodology and analysis, yes. Because I feel, because you are very important. But when you're talking literature review, maybe not. Introduction chapter, again, you can use I, first person.
Yeah, okay.
I would, in fact, instead of, for all of you, I'm telling all of you, if you write I, then I will give you more marks. But if you write the researcher, I will not be very happy. Your supervisors may be happy, but again, I want all of you, all 35 of you here, to get into this habit. As a qualitative researcher, you are not outside the box. You created the box. And you, when you do analysis, you are very important. So you can say I. You can say, I want to do this. These are the topics which will help me. Don't say the research, it will help the researcher. Don't write in third person. So first person can be an introduction, can also be somewhere in your methodology where you're talking about yourself. You have to place yourself in reflexivity chapter. You have to write about yourself, I. And in the analysis also, you can say I. I was with them. I sat down with them. I realized that he was doing this. Can do, no problem. Okay, I'll stop my recording now.